Beaumont, you and I have been covering film festivals both virtually and in person for a couple of years now. I actually wanted to ask you about how you feel about now being here and being able to cover TIFF in person. What's your thoughts on that? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling over the moon. I'm super excited. This feels like a great progression for us. It feels like the next step. I'm just ready to kind of attack this one kind of like I attacked Sundance, which was ravenously consuming as much film as possible. Just kind of run with that and make it the best festival I can, hopefully.
What's up, everyone? Thomas here with ForReel, and y'all, I have just got to say, being able to go to the Toronto International Film Festival in person was just an unreal experience. It was so cool to be able to meet up with people, to be able to explore downtown Toronto, and of course, see some amazing films, many of which we're going to talk about here in this video. But best of all, it was amazing to have this incredible experience with two of my best friends and writers here at ForReel. So, you know them, but I'm gonna introduce them anyway. First up in Vancouver, BC, we have fellow ForReel writer Taylor Beaumont.
Hello, Thomas. And I just have to say, we're all looking great right now. We got that post-TIFF glow going on. And yeah, it feels good. It looks good on us too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have that glow for like the rest of the year. It's just something I cannot stop like thinking about how fun and awesome that was. So in on this conversation, as well as our other Vancouverite, but ForReel film festival fanatic, Todd Pengelly.
Hey, I've gone all blurry. That's that TIFF glow. I don't know what happened, but I'm all blurry. I'm happy to be here. The glow was initially me being able to sleep again, and now it's just my camera not knowing where to focus.
So, fun fact for everyone out there. There you are, Todd. Fun fact for everyone out there. Collectively, between the three of us, we watched I think it's 51 different TIFF films while we were there. So Todd led that charge. Todd, how many movies did you end up watching? What was your final count?
My final count was 31. 30 of them were in, I guess 32 if we count The Woman King right after I got back from Toronto.
We are counting that one, yes.
Yeah, cool. Then 32. 31 of them were in person. 30 of them in Toronto. One screener. I had so many screeners, we just did not get to them. And, yeah.
That's fair. That's still insane. Taylor, where did you land? How many did you have?
23, a more modest number. I admittedly kind of kept my screening limit per day to 3 films. After that, I started to feel a little tapped out. So yeah, 23 is where I landed, but I'm happy with my work.
Yeah, and I landed at about 24, so definitely modest. And I think that it's important to keep that in mind. And I think we all had enough flexibility to where we could see the things that we wanted to, but also get a little bit of downtime. Todd, you had some crazy days, some 4 or 5 movie days.
Yeah, I think it was whatever 30 films and 7 days averages out to. It's like 4.2 or whatever.
Right.
It was an absolute like evisceration of my sleep schedule.
Oh yeah, for sure. And those midnight screenings as well, the midnight madness things.
Yeah, once you throw those in there, it's kind of, you've made your choice as to kind of what you're doing with your sleep.
For sure. Well, guys, let's talk a little bit more about TIFF. Before we jump into, I want to cover like our top 10 films, but collectively, because I averaged out the scores for all the films that we watched and all the ratings that we published, and so I have a list of the 10 that we kind of collectively rated the highest. Before we jump into those, I really want to know, what was the highlight of your TIFF experience? I'll start with Todd. What was the thing that was like the cherry on top for your TIFF experience?
Non like particular film related?
Yeah, I mean, it can be film related. We'll talk about like what we thought about films later, but just
For
like
sure.
something that you did or something that you experienced while you're in Toronto.
So obviously the people, right, like hanging out with y'all and some of our other writer friends was a whole lot of fun, meeting some people in person finally. But I have to say, I was really like the kind of energy that gets brought to, especially like the Q&A screenings where the audience is just really into it, which has been something I've missed in theaters for like since COVID began, really. I've been in some packed theaters since COVID began, but it's still a lot of like hushed, like, you know, the second the movie ends, a lot of people scurry out, whereas this was a lot of like, you know, everyone really loved the film and or loved the sense of films there and loved being at the Q&As and talking with filmmakers and talking with stars and hearing what they had to say. And so that was all really excellent. And for the big titles, and then for like some smaller indie projects too, where it was like way more of a personal Q&A too. That was I really enjoyed that and ended up staying through a lot more Q&As than I thought I was going to, because my schedule was so tight and I was still like, no, I'll sit for the extra half hour. So yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, lots of really awesome positive energy around you know, going to these movies and being in these crowds. So that's certainly a perk to doing film festivals. Taylor, I think I know yours, but if you want to go ahead and explain your highlight to TIFF.
Yeah, Thomas, I probably talked your ear off about this
It's okay.
already,
Tell me
but
more, because I was there and I still can't get enough of it. It's
for
great.
everyone else, the clear highlight blows everything else out of the water, really, if I'm being honest, is the new Spielberg Fabelman's premiere, Saturday night in Toronto, 9:30. I think it was slated to start, but it started a little late because just so many people had to get into that theater that night. But just the energy was just palpable in the building. Everyone was dressed to the nines. Everyone looked good. The movie, of course, and we'll talk about this, no doubt, just completely knocked me back. It's a tour de force from Spielberg. It was everything that makes. It was just a great summation of just the magic of movies, and it just touched on every big emotional kind of beat that you wanted it to, and just I came out of it just feeling like my world had been changed. I would definitely, without hesitation, put it in my like top 5 film going experiences of my life, like without question. And of course, Spielberg was there afterwards. Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, Seth Rogen on stage for the Q&A. You know, the crowd was just so on board with it, so enamored with things, and you could just feel the joy and the energy that screening gave everyone, and that was just, you know, top experience. That I couldn't have asked for a better experience, and that's really what I was going for TIFF for, and I got that with the Fabelmans, and yeah.
Very cool. I think my camera froze. Hold on one second.
You're stuck in
stuck in a very happy
yeah.
Yes, this is my face of approval.
Yeah.
You're
I
like,
guess my camera.
absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
Webcam utility.
There you go.
This back. Cool. Yeah, no, good. You know, like I said, I was there with you for Fabelmans. We got dressed up. It was certainly, I would agree with you, top 5 film going experiences of my life, just being at a Spielberg world premiere, and everything. Yeah, everything that evening was amazing, and so I was very happy to be a part of that as well, and would probably go as my highlight as well, but you stole it, so No, it's good. I'm glad that that it was as good of an experience for you as it was for me. I think mine though, my highlight, again, kind of echoing everything you guys said, on top of that, I got to cover the red carpet for Sanctuary. And that was really cool. I know nothing about camera calls, right? Like they sent us these emails like, hey, you want to cover the carpet? And I'm like, sure, Sanctuary sounds like a fun one to do that for. And so they approved that request. I took my camera, and I was so unprepared for this as well. Like it was at nighttime, and I didn't have a flash for my camera because I had to pack so lightly. So I'm there, I'm with all these other people with these like massive like camera setups and everything, and everyone knows what they're doing, and I'm just like, click. But no, it was so cool. I mean, I've been a fan of Christopher Abbott's for a few years now. In doing these film festivals, I love just about everything that he's in, and even if I don't love it, he is always a solid part of the films that he's in. And so it was cool being able to get those photos of him and the rest of the cast and filmmakers that were a part of the film. And I learned a new thing. I learned how to cover a red carpet, and that's something that I hope to do a lot more. And despite not having a flash, I think my photos actually turned out pretty well. So I'm excited to share those and yeah, hopefully in the future do more of those camera calls, maybe a little more prepared next time. So
Yeah.
so
I
very cool.
discovered after the fact, and by like after the fact, I mean like way after the fact, like 2 days ago, that I actually had a pretty decent photo of Viola Davis
Oh
from like when we walked by and saw her. I can't
yeah.
find my phone right now. I'll send it to y'all after though. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
please
that's like
do. In fact,
crystal clear.
I want to put together a gallery of our just photos from being out and about and around
Yeah.
on the
It was,
website. So
when I was like lifting my phone up and we were taking pictures as we walked by, but it's a crystal clear picture of her, and I was like, wow, cool.
yo,
Proof. Proof.
I have proof. I was there, she was there. Ooh, that there's proof there. No, I did the same thing with Taylor Swift actually. I just kind of like put my camera on my tripod and then stuck it up in the air, and now it's the leading shot on that video I put for our landing page, which turned
Yep.
out really really cool. So yeah, cool stuff. All right, let's jump into films. I am so excited to talk about this. When I distilled the list of movies we had seen down and got the top 10, I looked at that top 10 and was like, yep, that makes a lot of sense. Like every single one of those makes sense. Not all of us saw all of these films, but like I said, I kind of averaged out the scores there. I think half the list actually are things that all three of us saw, so I think that's going to make for some really good conversation. And there's also, I think each one of us has a film on this list that we saw, which means that we were able to check it out and can now recommend it to everyone else. And that's what's really cool about having all three of us at TIFF, is to be able to cover such a broad spectrum of films. So let's start with number 10. I'm so excited to talk about this one. The number 10 film on the list is Triangle of Sadness. We averaged a 4.2 score on this one. A couple notes on it. It will be playing at VIFF, which is pretty cool. It releases in theaters on October 7th, but I'm not sure if it's limited or wide yet. I have to look more into that.
It's
And
probably limited to wide because it's
yeah,
neon, and so they usually
makes
start
sense.
small and then run it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So check your local theaters for times for that. And most importantly, or I guess not most importantly, but a big fact is I have a review on it online now, and this is one of the reasons I'm super excited to talk about it. The movie, just a very very quick synopsis or overview of it. It's a film that happens in 3 chapters, each depicting like increasingly outrageous scenarios that a couple finds themselves in as members of the upper class. Who wants to start here? I won't start because I have a lot to say.
I think you should start.
I should start?
Yeah,
okay,
go
I
for
will. I was not expecting to like Triangle of Sadness as much as I did. This was the first film that I watched at TIFF. I was Beaumont, we had freshly gotten off a plane and scurried to this P&I screening, and I just wasn't, I don't know what I was expecting. I think I went into it without any real expectations, but daunting run times can be You know, it can be a little discouraging sometimes, especially when you just got off a plane and didn't have a whole lot of sleep. But I was so enthralled with this movie. It does some it puts these characters in these very outrageous situations and just like lets it play out. And the runtime, I think there were times where I felt like it went a little long, but at the same time it was so entertaining, and there were so many nuggets of like comedy and very well written dialogue, and just where these situations go and devolve into, it's just so fun to experience. And so I was thoroughly impressed with how much I like this, and apparently you guys liked it as well because it's on our top 10. Todd, let's get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so this was my third favorite of the festival. I love this movie. Definitely drags like a little bit in that third act, but otherwise it is about as damn near perfect as the film's going to get that tackles in a comedic way like socioeconomic issues and just like capitalism in general. And it constructs this like the model for how it's going to comedically tackle capitalism in its first act, and then completely deconstructs it in this perfect second act. I think that second chapter is like the best stretch of film, just like as a pure stretch I saw maybe at TIFF. It's so funny. Woody Harrelson is incredible in it. Everyone's the top notch. The cinematography is really incredible. It's on a yacht, and so the fact that the camera is able to kind of, you know, move in a way that actually makes you think that this yacht is rocking back and forth when obviously they were not trying to put a yacht through a storm in real life. And then the third act reconstructs like an entirely new capitalistic society, and in a very satirical way. I thought it was awesome. I want to like shout out Charles B. Dean, who plays the lead actress in it. I thought she was fantastic, and the entire time I was just heartbroken because she passed away very suddenly last month, at the end of last month, after this film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, but before it premiered at TIFF. And I thought she was phenomenal in it. She really makes that whole third act like super worth it. I was like, man, just keep rolling. I know it's a little long, but like keep it rolling because she is so funny in the movie. And yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. I could not recommend it more.
Absolutely. Beaumont, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, right there with you guys, 100% of the way. I think I consider it, yeah, probably my second favorite film of the festival. It was the perfect way to start off the festival, and I was really banking on that, Thomas, as you know, because we were coming off a plane with little to no sleep, and I wanted something to just grip me and transport me and just like immediately enrapture me in a new world. But also, of course, so much of this film has so much to say about the world we live in today. Now, you know, it's definitely a film that's very like heavy-handed in its satire. Like it's not going for subtlety too much of the time, but that works to its favor for the most part because yeah, like that gets you on board with the comedy. It gets you laughing consistently throughout. And there also are little, like you said, Thomas, little nuggets of things peppered kind of throughout the film's runtime that I'm still thinking about now that you kind of take with you and kind of like you get to analyze on your own later, which I think is really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely like an all out, eat the rich kind of movie that allows the audience to kind of vicariously experience, a complete takedown of, higher classes. And yeah, but it's a ball, like Todd said, the second chapter is just probably one of the most insane things I saw at the festival. Just so entertaining, so balls to the wall. Turns into basically like a segment from Jackass for a second, which I just was not expecting at all. Like I was like, I could tell some people in the audience were kind of, the way some people in the audience were being quiet during those sections were like, they weren't on board with it. But I was like, yes, let's go. It really, it injected me with like that kind of that energy I needed for the festival. And yeah, I mean, third act does drag a little bit, like we said, but other than that, I had a super good time with this movie, kind of like a Buñuelian kind of nightmare kind of film from Ostland, and I think it succeeds basically across the board with a few little things that could have been tightened up, but otherwise fantastic.
Very cool. Good summaries there, guys. I'm excited for it to play it at VIFF and to get more perspectives on this one.
I know. If I didn't have so many other films and things going on, I would be like, do I have 2.5 hours? I bet I
Yeah,
have
Yeah,
we're gonna
2.5
watch
yeah,
it
hours.
again.
yeah.
I bet I have 2.5 hours again.
Yeah, there you go. Let's move on to number 9. This is also going to be a fun one to talk about, and so I'll have to again try not to talk too much about it. But our number 9 film, with an average score of 4.2, is Glass Onion: A Knives Out Story. This is one that all three of us saw as well. It'll be in theaters on November 22nd. I think it's probably a limited release, and then on Netflix December 23rd. Queuing it up for whatever awards it can possibly qualify for. But besides awards, I think this is just going to be a really fun crowd pleaser. I mean, I know it was at TIFF, but essentially here Daniel Craig returns as Detective Benoit Blanc.
Benoit.
Yeah, Benoit Blanc, to a Knives Out mystery with a whole new cast of characters and a whole new mystery, as a circle of influencer friends get together for a luxurious weekend together, and then one of them gets mysteriously murdered. And so yeah, Taylor, let's go ahead and start with you on this one. What are your thoughts on Glass Onion?
It was a film we watched at the Cinesphere in Toronto at Ontario Place on a massive IMAX screen. And that right there was just incredible because I couldn't see myself making an effort to catch this one in theaters when it comes out for limited release. It's obviously going to be the Netflix crowd that sees them, the majority who sees it. So everyone will be watching on smaller screens. But yeah, this film was just massive in scope, but also very small in scope because it is kind of, you could consider it like a single location kind of movie with a cast that is, certainly an ensemble cast, but it's a more tightened ensemble cast than the first Knives Out was. This was a film that was filmed during the COVID pandemic, and they even kind of incorporate that into the story, but they don't do it in like a grading kind of way. It's just kind of a detail, and they kind of make light of it as well. But yeah, it's also the first Knives Out movie, basically just like steroid injected and just taken up a notch in every sense of the word. It's more cartoonish. It's more, it's just more silly. It's just more exaggerated. I think, Thomas, we were talking about like, now that this is the second entry, and as far as I know, there's plans to do a third film. Could this become like the Fast and Furious franchise, the mystery movie Fast and Furious franchise, just in how they're pushing it and how it's very self-reflexive and on the nose, and that it knows what it is. It knows it's trying to deliver those those thrills and delights that kind of everyone kind of is now going to expect out of these movies, but it's still pushing it in some really interesting directions, fleshing it out with like really colorful, interesting characters. I think we all agree that Kate Hudson's a huge highlight in this movie. I was not expecting her to kind of knock this out of the park, but she does. And of course, Daniel Craig is fantastic. And yeah, of course, it has a lot to say about our modern landscape of influencers and people with a lot of money that use it to their benefit for the most part, while they have put it under the guise of they're helping others at the same time. And yeah, it's zany, it's bonkers, it's colorful, I think I don't know if I prefer it over the original Knives Out. I think I kind of hold them both on the same level, because I both enjoyed them almost equally when I kind of reflect on them. But yeah, this one was something that everyone needs to see, something that everyone will enjoy. It is a crowd pleaser, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with everything there. It was really awesome to see it in IMAX, on a massive screen, especially with so many shots being close-ups. We just had a whole lot of like super massive, super close-up shots. Janelle, that's my next point. I love y'all. I love me some Janelle Monáe. Okay. I just cannot get enough of her. And I was concerned when I heard that she was a part of the cast that she wouldn't have as big of a role in this movie, but she is actually one of the main characters. I mean, obviously it's an ensemble, but a lot of the story revolves around her character. And so that just made me even happier. I cannot get enough Janelle Monáe. And so it was so cool to see her take on this role and to be kind of a lead character in this. And so yeah, I mean, it's fun. Everything Taylor said, it's fun. I can't wait for it to go to Netflix. Can't wait for other people to see it. It really is a good time. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. It is one that I want to go back and like rewatch to see what I pick up, because and Taylor, we had talked about this. You don't really know what kind of solution this movie is going for, and I won't spoil anything here. But it's so interesting the direction they take with how the mystery is resolved. So Todd, what did you think?
Yeah, I saw it before either of you, which made it a really like a tough, like have to bite my. I saw it like 3 or 4 days before you too. It wasn't even like, oh, I'll just wait 6 hours. It was like I had to really bite my tongue for a couple of days because I had a great time with it. I echo everything y'all are saying. Kate Hudson is dynamite. Janelle Monáe is an MVP. I think it's actually like the best Daniel Craig performance since like Skyfall. Like, I mean, I think it's definitely better than all of his recent Bonds, and I think he's better than in the first Knives Out. So it's a fantastic Craig performance. Whereas the first movie really tries its hardest to like outsmart the audience. I feel like this one kind of really tries to like outdumb the audience, which makes for a really like roller coastery ride because everybody is just like cranking it up to 1,000 on like their stupidity level. Edward Norton, Dave Bautista, like everyone is just going for like how dumb can I be? And it's while also being in a really smart script and just hamming it up. And it's just a lot of fun. I think it's such a shame that it's going to be a limited release and mostly a Netflix film because it kills with an audience. Like it kills. Lots of applause, lots of laughs. It is a whole lot of fun. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it more, seeing it with as many people as possible. Like if you're gonna watch it on Netflix, invite some friends over.
Oh yeah, make a party out of it. Get some
like,
some hors d'oeuvres. Make some drinks. Like it is definitely
invite the
a great
squirrels
movie.
inside. Like get every organism you can see to see the movie and just like make a little crowd. It's quite a crowd pleaser.
Serve some hard kombucha.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get that when you watch the movie.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Good contributions there. The next one, number 8, is one that I actually didn't, and am very sad I didn't get to see at TIFF. Number 8 is How to Blow Up a Pipeline. 4.3 average score between Todd and Taylor. I don't know a whole lot about the film, and I've kind of intentionally kept it that way. I just know it's based on a book by Andreas Malm by the same name. And as far as I know, How to Blow Up a Pipeline is a heist film about a group of activists who intend to blow up a West Texas pipeline. Does that sound accurate?
Yep.
Yeah.
Todd, why don't you go ahead and start off on this one?
So I'll stop qualifying every movie I see. I'll only qualify this one and one more. I think in terms of like technically made, this was the best made film I saw at TIFF. This one really like came out of nowhere and just blew me away. Like, I guess no pun intended. It is, as you pointed out, a heist like docu-thriller because parts of it are very documentary-esque. There's definitely a lot of real life people that the characters are based on. It is a film that is not just a straightforward thriller, but also cuts back in time a bunch to explain. It has an ensemble cast of I think about 8 characters, and it cuts back to each of their backstories throughout the movie without ever losing any steam. And all of those characters are based on very real life incidents of either like eminent domain taking houses from rural folks in Western Texas, or indigenous people getting forced off their land in North Dakota so that big electrical companies can come in and make power, or people being affected by climate change negatively on the West Coast. Whatever the case may be, I felt like it spoke on a very real and human level while also being an incredibly thrilling movie, like a real like actual edge of your seat, like, oh, this just moves with a pace. And it's a small independent film made really under the radar. In fact, there's a few anonymous people credited in the credits because they work for the government and can't risk their jobs, but they were used as consultants on the film. It's a really meticulously accurate film on how to blow up a pipeline, with scenes deliberately cut out so that it's not just a recipe book. But it is very well done. It is I could not recommend this movie more. And Neon picked it up during TIFF, so it will definitely be getting a wide release throughout the US and hopefully globally, which was, I think like uncertain when it premiered at TIFF because it was just this independent film that was really under the radar. But I enjoyed it a lot. I would love to hear what Taylor thought.
Yeah, Taylor, your thoughts?
This is a movie that's, the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, God, I need to be watching that again right now. Like, I need to get that queued up again for myself, because I think it's exactly the kind of film that we wanted out of the festival, which is a film that, yeah, we weren't really expecting much out of. We knew, little going in, and yet we're completely blown away by. And that's this movie for me, for sure. I need to get my hands on it immediately, see it in theaters, own it. It's just a super dynamic kind of look at this eco-terrorism. It kind of feels like it could spawn like a whole new genre of film. Like, yes, we've had bank heist movies, now it's time for like eco takedown movies, because this one is just so it's gritty, it's urgent, it's got like this really cool pulsating soundtrack that kind of goes throughout. The 16 millimeter photography is awesome. I love everything shot on 16 millimeters. So, I mean, I'm biased in that sense, but yeah, it just looks so good here. The colors are just so rich. The characters are all like, even with the film's short and tight runtime, they are all lovingly rendered and kind of fleshed out and made to feel very real. The acting is all great. Sacha Lane, yeah. Jake Weary, I think his name is, and Forrest Goodluck, I think, were some definite highlights.
Yeah, I think Forrest Goodluck is phenomenal. Just echoing that. I think the whole cast is great, but Forrest Goodluck especially is like, whoa. Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah, it's edited in a super gripping way. It just keeps things nimbly moving along. It's a very tight feeling film, but this is also a film that like, if it had gone longer, I wouldn't have minded at all. Obviously the tight runtime serves the plot well, because it's a fast-paced kind of flick. But yeah, it could have gone on longer and I would have been enjoying myself. I would have been having a great time. I kind of equated it to, just to kind of give people a sense of kind of what movie it is. It almost feels like the Safdie Bros, like Good Time mixed with like Euphoria, mixed with like Kelly Reichardt's Night Moves, but it's also like kind of Reservoir Dogs. It's also
like
Ocean's 11.
Yeah, I was about to say there's a little Soderbergh in it, like a little like Ocean's 11, but also a little bit of like the more like new agey Soderbergh, where he's just like, I'm making films on iPhones, like
yeah,
and it's just like you pumping them out. It is, yeah, definitely all of that mixed in.
Okay, you guys have to stop talking about it. I am so mad I did not see this movie. I really am very, very disappointed that I didn't like it. I'm pretty sure I even wrote a preview about it in my pre-festival covers. Like, I really, really wanted to see this movie. It was on my radar, and we were supposed to talk about it in our curtain raiser, but some schedules got shifted around, and so the one who was going to talk about it ended up not being able to be on. But yeah, it's so, I mean, just the premise seemed interesting enough, like ahead of the festival, for me to be like, that seems like one that I should really, really check out. But the two screenings that I was there for conflicted with other things that were on this list, and okay. I hope everyone out there is like listening and internalizing the feedback on this movie as much as I am, because I am so excited to see it, and I just want that energy to be out there for you guys as well. This movie just sounds so good. So, all right, we are going to move on to number 7, which is another one that I'm very excited to talk about, and that is The Menu, with a collective average score of 4.3. The Menu will release in theaters on November 18th, and I currently have a review on it right now, and that's online. So The Menu is what I would call a very stunning surprising thriller about a couple who indulge in an exclusive private island dinner experience where each course reveals a secret one layer at a time. The way that this movie devolves into what it devolves into is insane. Todd, we went to the same screening and are just like gripping each other with how suspenseful and crazy this plot was. And
Yes.
there's so many different reveals that happen throughout the film, and each one just makes you go, no way, that's not actually what's happening, right? Oh, it is. Oh, okay, I'm not prepared for this. And so lots of spoilers, we won't spoil anything here, but it is a very, very tense film. I think the biggest takeaway from me in the menu is how much I love Anya Taylor-Joy. She is just a massive standout in this movie. I mean, I already know she's a great actress, I love that, but I think that her character was written in such a in such a compelling way. She just has this attitude that I just like love in this particular environment, because her, like, the attitude that she has, or the demeanor that she has, is so her and so authentic, but then runs counter to this, what is supposed to be a super dignified evening, where you have to follow rules and standards and stuff, and she's just like, no, I'm gonna be me. And I love that. I love how she carried that throughout the movie, and I love how she had to deal with the decisions that had to be made. So it's a very well written film. I loved how it was filmed, and just the progression of events that lead to where this movie leads to is insane. So Todd, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, How to Blow Up a Pipeline would be like the second to last one I qualified. This would be the last one I qualified. This was my favorite movie of the fest. I don't think it's like technically the best, in terms of like its writing or anything like that, but in terms of its ability to commit to the bit, like no movie tops it. It just fully down to the last minute was just like, this is the bit we're going with, and we're gonna just run it into the ground. And I think it's fantastic. There was obviously, there was, as you pointed out, we were like gripping each other with laughter. There was one line in particular that Ralph Fiennes delivers about student loans that I won't spoil for people, where it actually felt like Thomas and I were about to like jump into the row in front of us. We were laughing so hard. It was just an absolutely like electric movie.
It was a great moment.
Yeah, I think the acting all around is really, really top tier. Like, obviously, Anya Fiennes is great. John Leguizamo's in it, playing like a caricature of himself, and it's hysterical. Like, it's just really, like, the only thing better for me than like a twist I can't see coming is a twist that you can see coming about 2 minutes before it happens, and you spend those 2 minutes being like, no filmmaker would do that. And then it does it, and you're like, I can't believe he's just doing that. Like, that happens like 10 times in this movie, where I'm
Yes.
like, oh, he's about to do this. Oh my God, he's doing it. Why would he do that?
Why would he? That's actually happening right now.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow, this is why I go see movies, because like you just leave and you're like, that was so much fun. Like, that was just so much fun. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed the menu. I cannot wait to see it in theaters again.
I can't wait to. I want to go and watch it again, but more importantly, I want to watch people watch this movie.
Yeah, it's a lot like Sorry to Bother You, where it's like, I just really wanted to watch it with other people, just so I could be like, yo, you have to go see this movie, because it's just so much fun to be with other people as they're experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Taylor, what did you think?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to open with it. It's just a movie you got to see in theaters. You got to see, or at least with a good group of people, gauge their reactions, because they're going to be taken on, a roller coaster ride. It's fair to say. And yeah, just half of the fun is going to be experiencing that along with them. I was definitely seated next to a guy that was just loving every minute of this film. He was just laughing at every joke, just like cheering at everything. And yeah, that in and of itself was like made the movie for me. Yeah, like this was a dark, kind of delicious treat from TIFF, director Mark Mylod, that really emphasized some great performances. Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy. I felt the other actors were definitely good. I felt their characters were not as fun and dynamic as I was kind of hoping them to be. But I guess the real kind of movie boils down to Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy and how they play off each other. And I think they do a fantastic job of that throughout the film. That's consistently engaging, and also it keeps you guessing throughout. But yeah, there are definitely some things you see kind of coming throughout that, yeah, the director then follows through with. And yeah, that's not to say that you get let down in any ways. And if anything, he delivers on all fronts. So that's a lot of fun. I guess I didn't rank this one as high as you guys, just because I found it, this might sound harsh. I don't mean it to sound harsh, but I found it just a little gimmicky in the sense that it takes the premise that it does and just kind of stretches that premise across its whole runtime. It really, this movie would make an interesting double feature with like an episode of Chef's Table or something on Netflix, where you just like watch something so earnestly trying to communicate, how food is prepared and the whole culture around it, and the practices around it, and then have the menu where this just completely dismantles that, and kind of the anarchists take on that, this wickedly dark kind of biting satire that just leaves no one safe at the end. I've got to give a shout out to Peter Deming, the director of photography. He shot stuff like Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive, so I'm like, hell yeah. The Ralph Fiennes, like I said, a highlight. That's really all kind of I wrote down. But yeah, no, a lot of fun. See it in theater if you can.
Yeah. I will add one more thing here. Not to like extend any more time on the menu, but I also want to shout out Hong Chow, who plays Ralph Fiennes' lead assistant in the film, and she's going to come up later when we talk about The Whale. She was just like an MVP of the festival for me. When she appeared in the menu, I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And she's awesome. It's a completely different character than the character in The Whale. Two totally and tonally different moods, but she's fantastic in it too. I just want to shout her out, and we'll talk more about her later. But
Great shout out there. Good call for sure. We're going to move on to one that Todd really liked a lot. Number 6 on the list is MOONAGE Daydream with a score of 4.5. This is one that Todd saw. Taylor and I didn't get around to it at the festival, but it is currently in theaters, and Todd also has a review for it online. And as far as I know, it's a David Bowie documentary.
Yep, that's right.
I'm really boiling these synopsises down to like the very like
nailed
basic.
The next movie you're gonna be like, so this is a movie, and the description is it's a movie.
It's a movie.
MOONAGE Daydream, which is out right now in the US. I think it's coming out like this week in Canada. Not totally sure how that works. This is the only documentary we have on the list. It is a real archival documentary. It's like archival and montage that Brett Morgan, who's an amazing documentarian, pulls from a whole bunch of concert footage of David Bowie, a lot of and like bumps it up to like 4K, like concert footage that was just like unwatchable beforehand, and takes a whole lot of interviews that David Bowie gave over the years, including like talk show interviews with like Dick Cavett and just like other interviews that he personally recorded himself and that were never like super publicly made available. And he intersperses it with a montage of concert footage and just like every other piece of like physical art from like the 20th century. I'm talking like everything from Bergman to Picasso to Warhol to Spielberg. I mean, it's just like fast montage of it all. And it really helps build out like kind of where Bowie fits into the larger legacy of pop culture from the 20th century, but also just kind of like who he was as a person, which was always really hard for him to define, and even harder for like the media to define while he was alive. It was always like, who is this person who brands himself as an alien and who does not define himself to one sexuality or one gender, and it tackles all of that without having to like put any of it in concrete, which is great, because I don't think there is a way to put it in concrete for someone who is purposefully as like ethereal as David Bowie was. I enjoyed it a lot. I just think the visuals are great. It's just one of those kind of like last year's tragedy of Macbeth, where it's just like I could have it just silently playing on a TV while I'm working, and I would be like, this is such a vibe. I love it so much because it's just so well made. I guess the last thing I'll say on it, besides like go see it on the biggest screen you can find, simply because the visuals and sound are amazing, is I would also shout out a couple friends of ForReel on the Awesome Friday podcast. They recently talked about MOONAGE Daydream. They are big fans of it as well. So if you want to hear more about it after you see it, go check out the Awesome Friday podcast. I think it was last week's episode. They raved about it. So yeah, that's awesome. MOONAGE Daydream. Fantastic.
I'll put that link in the description. Good shout out there. I'm gonna roll into the next one because actually these next three are the ones that we all kind of independently saw. So I'll roll into the next one, which is one that was a pleasant surprise for me, and that is Raymond and Ray, which I gave 4.5. And essentially it's about two half brothers who are called to attend their father's funeral, where they learn more about each other, about their family, and about the father that they thought that they knew. I did an interesting thing for this one because this one wasn't actually on my radar at all. I mean, I wanted to see it, but I had so many other priorities that I just didn't slot it into my schedule. And then Todd saw The Son and gave his review for The Son, and I thought, do I have time for that? I don't know. And as it turns out, Raymond and Ray was playing at the same time as my son screening. So I rolled the dice and I said, okay, I think I want to try seeing Raymond and Ray instead of The Son, and hopefully that movie is better than what Todd is explaining for with The Son.
I think you rolled the correct dice here. I think,
you know what, I thank you. I think that I did too. Like, even without that decision, like, this movie just turned out to be such a big surprise for me because it stars Ethan Hawke and Ewan McGregor. And really, I mean, there is a lot of the film where it's just conversation between the two, but there's also parts of the film where other characters come in, and it just, the scenario gets more and more comical as it goes on, but it also does a really great job deconstructing these characters, their motivations, their personalities, and so as a character study, I loved it. As a comedy film, I loved it. As a film prominently featuring jazz, I love jazz, and jazz music, and it's so heavily drenched in jazz music, which I totally did not expect. Like, that's the score, is jazz music, which makes sense when you watch the movie because Ethan Hawke's character plays the trumpet, and so his character has background in jazz, but it's just not apparent exactly how jazzy this film is, and I absolutely love that. So it just, on all fronts, it turned out to really be a pleasant surprise for me. I really enjoyed the experience. I laughed a bunch, and without giving too much away about like the plot points, it is a movie that kind of evolves as it goes on. New information becomes apparent, new things come up, characters learn things that are like, oh, we probably should have known that, but we didn't. and so they're just kind of confronted with so much new information about this father that they aren't very fond of, but are now in his passing learning more about. So it just turned out to be such a great find for me at the festival. I think this one was my biggest surprise, and I am happy I made that switch from The Son. I do recommend it. I don't know anything about release or where it's going to play next, but I do hope that it reaches audiences soon in the near future. Moving on from that one, Taylor, it's your turn. We are now going to talk about Until Branches Bend, which you gave a 4.5. This is also playing at VIFF. I am excited to see it a part of the Vancouver Festival. And Taylor, you have a review online for it right now. And this is going to be another very basic synopsis, but is this, as far as I can tell, it's like a film based in BC about environmentalism?
Yeah, that's essentially it. And kind of the state of the environment now and how it exists in a very precarious state. More specifically, it's set in the Okanagan region of British Columbia, which is a region known for its vineyards, for its I believe nurseries it grows a lot of fruits and sees a lot of fruit exports, and also is being very affected by these shifts in climate change. It's a region that can get very hot in the summer, and it has been getting particularly hot in the past couple of years. Just last year, we experienced the like a heat dome is what they called it, when temperatures got way higher than they had in the past. And this film was filmed during that heat dome, and it kind of incorporates a bit of that. There's a bit of a heat wave going on in the story. And so that right there kind of touches on what this film is so good at, and that's kind of weaving in this current climate that we find ourselves in with our, you know, environmental concerns, climate change, heat waves, and then also the concerns of invasive species, of you know, animals and bugs and so forth. The main plot of this movie concerns the discovery of a potentially invasive species of beetle that the main character, I believe her name is Robin in the film, discovers in a peach. She works at a cannery as a grader and discovers this bug, takes it to her higher ups, who of course say, "Thank you, did the right thing bringing this to me, but let's just leave it here. Let's just push this under the rug." And nonetheless, she takes it to some experts who then take it public, and that makes it a whole kind of wide scale thing for this small town in the Okanagan region. And it leads to drastic things like the you know, production basically being shut down, farming being halted, because it could mean the end of their season. But that has the inverse effect of getting all the townspeople up in arms, because they depend on farming for their livelihood. And so Robin becomes kind of both whistleblower and pariah in the, you know, in the region, and has to deal with that while also dealing with an unwanted pregnancy of her own, an invasive species, if you will, of her own. And so there's a lot of layers here, and lots to think about, lots to chew on. But it's also a very kind of small, homemade kind of feeling film. A lot of the people who worked on this film worked double duty, like the guy who composed the score, which is, by the way, fantastic in the film. Fantastic use of flute and voices to kind of really just throw things off kilter, keep you on edge throughout. I believe he was also just involved in Foley and sound recording, and the editor was also involved in the writing of the film. Anyway, there's lots of people working double duty here. There's a mix of professional and non-professional actors. So it just feels very like a homegrown kind of effort. But at the same time, it has, you know, a lot to say about, you know, the world at large, and kind of where we find ourselves, how we're treating our planet, and how we have to deal with, you know, our own personal ideas of identity in increasingly confusing world that kind of abstracts many issues for us and many matters. So it's kind of like you have to kind of reconcile those two things, and that's what we get out of the main character of Robin through this. Yeah, beautifully shot, the cinematography, also 16mm cinematography, and this makes the region look gorgeous. I've been to the region many times myself, but I've yet to, I think in my life, see an actual film set there, and proudly set there. So that's what this film does. And yeah, super well acted and well written, and there's just a lot going on that I think everyone can get on board with here. I really hope this film, now coming to VIFF, will find a real big audience and following in Vancouver, because it's obviously a bit more urgent to us here. But I think this can really hopefully find purchase with audiences the world over, especially audiences, yeah, you know, now very conscious and attuned to the problems that we're facing on both small and large scales with our environment. So yeah, super, super awesome film. And I highly, highly recommend anyone checking out VIFF to check this one out.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. You've been speaking very highly of it, and now it is very high on my priorities list. So very cool. Number 3. This is going to be an interesting one. Number 3. The number 3 film that we have is The FABELMANS, 4.5 score. And it's a film that releases on November 11th. Again, queuing it up for award season, which I have no doubt it will just do some work during award season this year, starting with winning the People's Choice Award at TIFF. So the reign of the FABELMANS has begun. Touted as Steven Spielberg's most personal film, The FABELMANS is a coming of age story that follows the childhood of a boy and his burgeoning interest in and talent for filmmaking, while also dealing with family drama and the challenges of growing up. There, it's a little more detailed of a description for you. Todd, Todd, we'll start with you on this one. You were the lowest score of us, but that's okay. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed it as well. What were your thoughts on Fabelmans?
Half a star. Who is this
Half a
guy?
star.
Get him out of here. Not a filmmaker.
Spielberg? Like, who's even heard of him?
No, I enjoyed it. Yeah, so the Fabelmans. Oh, where to begin? We're gonna be talking and hearing a lot about this for the next 6 months because it's going to be a huge Oscar contender. Although it seems like Michelle Williams won't be now because Universal's decided to put her in Best Lead Actress instead of Supporting Actress, even though she's not the lead at all. But she is phenomenal. Yeah, it's a really interesting movie because it is how do I want to say this? It's kind of dreamlike. It's very it's obviously based in Spielberg's memories, and it kind of plays like a memory, right? It's a little dreamish, it's a little hodgepodge and all over the place. People are kind of the idyllic versions of themselves or the most like demonic version of themselves, depending on what's happening. When there's a fight, people get really animated, but otherwise they're like very subdued in kind of the happy way that you might remember your parents growing up. So in that way, I think he perfectly captures it. There's a handful of really, I mean, all the performances all around I think are great, but there's a handful of like great one-sceners from like Jude Hirsch, David Lynch, just a couple just like, wow, y'all really came in and y'all did it for Spielberg and just knocked it out of the park. Yeah, I had a great time with it. I think its last scene is one of my favorite scenes of a movie. Maybe the whole year might be like my favorite ending scene of the whole year. It's definitely up there. It's the complete antithesis of The Sun, which just has like one of the worst final 15 minutes I can remember. Yo, this movie sucks. I hate this movie. And then The Fabelmans, the final 15 minutes, you're like, wow, this is every reason I love this movie is boiled down to the last like 20 minutes. And just like the more you kind of sit with that ending, the more you're like, man, yeah, movies. I love when people that love movies make movies about movies, because you can really tell the passion is there, and you can see the passion is there with Spielberg, who we never doubted loved movies. So yeah, I'll let y'all talk about it because you were at the world premiere, and yeah,
yes.
I want to hear
the world premiere was a fantastic experience. I have a story. I think I might film it for TikTok. Let's make that like a selling point to get on our TikTok. Yeah. The Michelle Williams nomination thing is a very interesting choice because she wins in Best Supporting Actress. Like that's just no doubt. And I'm looking, and she hasn't won yet. At this point, I would just be like,
no, it's weird. Like it felt like it would have been hers in Supporting Actress. She's an Oscar darling, and she hasn't won. It would be her time. I haven't seen a Supporting Actress performance that I think.
I wonder if that's the thought here, is to go big because it's quote unquote her time. I mean, it certainly is. I would go for, I don't want to call it a gimme. Like she worked for it for sure. But yeah, I just don't see another Best Supporting Actress being as locked in as she would have been. So anyway, go big or go home, I guess. And hopefully it's not just another nomination credit. So but yeah, I really enjoyed the film. It's kind of like what you're saying, Todd. There is a dreamlike aspect to it, but I think what I appreciated is that dreamlike aspect becomes clearer as the movie goes on. It's just like this visual representation of how this character is maturing and how he's growing to, like, so much of the first half of the film is dreamlike and is ideal and perfect and almost too good to be true, because that's how he remembers it as a child, right? Like you just aren't exposed to a lot of the troubles of adulthood or growing up when you're younger, and so it is kind of glossy, it is kind of dreamlike, and that evolves as his character grows and evolves and is starting to witness some of the less flattering parts of being human, and in that also plays into how he makes films. And so watching the evolution of this character, I mean, I like movies that really do a good job with character development And I think that, I mean, obviously with this being kind of based on Steven Spielberg's childhood and his own experience in life, there's certainly a lot of that to be had in this movie. And no, there I go. And I just appreciate that. So so yeah, Taylor, let's go ahead and get to you and what you thought.
Yeah, well, like Thomas, you know, I was smiling from ear to ear like a big goof throughout this entire film. It just had me so enraptured and enamored, and just like I was at the altar of Spielberg. I was at the altar of cinema itself, it felt like. And just I this film feels like it gave kind of so much to the audience, and then just as an audience member, you just kind of you give yourself to it too. You just kind of let yourself get lost and swallowed up in it, and wound up in the magic of it all, because this film really does feel like it brings out the magic in filmmaking, and just celebrates the magic of filmmaking. Thomas, I think I was talking to you also during the festival about like how, you know, a movie can really be saved if it has like a really good scene in there, like it has at least one good solid scene where it leaves that lasting impression on you, or just stops you in your tracks. And this film has a lot of those scenes. In fact, a lot of this movie is just scene after scene where you're just like, that was a great scene. That was an even better scene. Like, how are they going to top that? And then like, that was an amazing scene. Like that was the cameo scenes. This is a film that's very like episodic in structure, so it kind of lends itself well to that, where it's just kind of, you know, Spielberg's kind of going back, mulling through these different chapters of his life, these different little specific instances of his life. Some are kind of like vignettes where they kind of take these not huge detours, but they kind of like, they feel like they're outside the main narrative, but they all still serve the central narrative really well, and they're colored with great memorable moments and fantastic character moments. And yeah, like just across the board, I was just so in love with this film. Obviously I am biased because I was there at the premiere with Spielberg in the house. So like, yeah, like of course I'm going to feel this way, but at the same time, you know, as I reflect back on the movie itself, I'm still writing my review as we speak. As I reflect back, it's still blows me away, just in every aspect and the way I think about it. The performances are all so good. Michelle Williams, of course. I thought Gabriel LaBelle, who by the way is from Vancouver, shout out, who gets the role of playing young Spielberg, Sammy Fabelman in the movie, but he's little Spielberg, is just incredible. I think he commits so much to this film, and he's going toe to toe with like Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, Seth Rogen, and he's doing an incredible job across the board. And yeah, Seth Rogen does really well in this movie. Like you really, you know, obviously everyone's gonna go in this movie and they're like, oh yeah, Seth Rogen, and sure he's playing like a Seth Rogen type character, but I think he also brings a lot of nuance, and he really just captures the gregariousness of his character really well. And yeah, but at the same time, his character is kind of like the antagonist in many ways. So it's really interesting to see how that's handled. But because it's coming from Spielberg, it's all handled super sensitively and lovingly. It's heavy on how it romanticizes things, and you know, has the melodramatic aspects. Everything's kind of very dreamlike and theatrical, as well, as you guys were mentioning. But like, this is all coming from Spielberg, who, you know, his very name is synonymous with big spectacle cinema itself. So of course he's going to look back at his life in that way. You know, it all makes sense. It's all wrapped up in this beautiful little package that I just think, sure, it'll probably walk away with award season, and will that make for a kind of predictable award season? Maybe, but I'd be happy with it at the end of the day. Let it win everything. I don't care. I'm all on board with it, and I want to see everyone fall in love with it as well. So that's
it enters.
Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
I was gonna say, just it's another entry into the Seth Rogen plays a character that invents the computer cinematic universe. and Steve Jobs, where I was like, you're just playing the same character. It's just Wozniak
again. Ever since I saw the Fabelmans, and we were in the of course the Q&A as well, and Taylor, you made the point, Gabriel LaBelle, I honestly think they should put him up for a Best Actor nomination for this. I don't think he'll win, but he does such a great job, and he mentions this in the Q&A, being amongst greatness in film, being playing Spielberg, acting among this cast of great actors, and of course all the greatness and the technical aspects of the film. He really is this like newcomer in this very veteran project, and he holds it up so well as the lead. I would very much like to see him get Best Actor recognition for that. Even if he doesn't win, I think the nomination could go a long way for his career, and I really am interested in seeing what he does next, because he does, as the lead in this movie, he does such a great job, just holding his own and not being out of place here. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Number 2, this one is for Todd, another one that I'm really sad that I missed.
Yeah, I can't even believe I'm the only person talking about this movie.
It's wild, and I have another story about this that I'll probably put on TikTok.
Want to intro it with your description?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you're gonna love this.
It's a movie.
It's a movie. I didn't. So the number. It's a motion picture. The number 2 film that only Todd got around to seeing at TIFF is The Banshees of Inisherin. That's how it's pronounced. Inisherin. Gave a 4.5. So Todd loved it. It's playing at VIFF, but it's currently on standby. I will be standing by to watch this one. And my synopsis is it's about a failing friendship.
Yeah, basically.
Nailed it.
Yeah, so I won't give. There's a lot. I mean, you could give away the movie and still just enjoy it. It's Martin McDonagh, so it's his 4th feature film. Since it's his first one since 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. He's going back to comedy with this one. Obviously, he made 7 Psychopaths and In Bruges, and those are all 4 of his films. I've named them all now. And obviously 3 Billboards, for anyone that saw it, they know it's not a comedy at all. It's a really heavy American drama. This one goes back to a little more of that Irish wit that is so prevalent in Bruges and 7 Psychopaths. It starts with essentially like a failing friendship right off the bat, but the main character, played by Colin Farrell, has no idea that it's a failed friendship. So he just goes around to his friend's house, played by Brendan Gleeson, the great Gleeson, and Gleeson's character is just like, I don't want to hang out with you today. He just like ghosts him, but it's set in the 1920s on like an Irish Isle. So like, there's no just like not texting back. He's just essentially like, nah, I'm not going to answer the door. And Colin Farrell's character is this kind of like, dumb but happy-go-lucky, just like, I'm going to get drunk every day like a normal Irish person kind of character. And he's like, I don't understand, why wouldn't he want to be friends with me? And it starts off as this very funny, like, one guy is trying to be friends with someone who is just completely ignoring him. And it becomes this like really heartfelt reflection on what it is to be to have like older male friends, and like reflections on masculinity, and above all else reflections on like regret with how one spends their time and spends their life, and the legacy that you leave behind. Are you remembered for how you make people feel, or are you remembered for something greater? And it goes from very comedic to very heavy in a kind of spiral effect where it never actually loses that comedic thing. It always circles back to it, but it's also always circling back to how heavy the topic matter at hand is. It is incredibly well acted. Like, if there weren't for one more performance that we will talk about in our last movie here, I would give Colin Farrell the best performance of the year I've seen so far. It is he's never been nominated, like he's never won anything at a major level. The Academy refuses to recognize Farrell. I think this will be the year that he breaks through and maybe doesn't win, but definitely gets the recognition because he is hysterical in it. And also just, Colin Farrell has like those sad boy eyebrows that he just really puts on like full display in this movie. I couldn't love it more. I have a review coming up of it soon. Yeah, this one is it's a hot topic, and it's already sold out at VIFF. When it comes to a theater near you, I would like book a ticket instantly because it's awesome. Or if you want to wait to watch it at home with subtitles, because it is thoroughly an Irish film. It is thoroughly Irish. Like there's not even a moment where you're like, oh yeah, they were just putting it up. No, they really embrace being Irish. The accents are heavy. Kerry Condon's great. Barry Keoghan's great. Everyone's awesome in it. It's very funny, very heartfelt. I couldn't recommend it more. Martin McDonagh has yet to miss for me. I love all 4 of his films, and I love this movie. I really love this movie. It's made like my top 10 of the year at the moment. So I'm super excited for more people to see it so we can talk about it more in depth.
I'm so disappointed I missed this one.
Also, great animal performances. This is like another. There's a cute little donkey in this movie who's
Donkey,
like
right? Yeah.
character, and this donkey is just the most adorable thing you'll ever see. Just
What
awesome.
is it with donkeys and film festivals? Isn't EO EO, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Another
EO's
donkey
another
film.
donkey film.
Yeah.
Getting some,
Donkey year.
I guess I don't know, maybe put one of those up for best actor, for the supporting actor.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, we have one more to talk about. Let's wrap this up and finish strong with our number 1 film at the festival, at the Toronto National Film Festival, and that is The Whale, with a collective score of 4.5. This one is also playing at VIFF, and it is also currently on standby. It goes to theaters December 9th. And actually Taylor has a review on this film online right now. And I described this one as a heartbreaking story about a morbidly obese and extremely recluse man whose health, there goes my camera. Okay, this is hopefully the last time this happens.
No, it's all right. You're just doing your Charlie thing.
Doing it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a spoiler.
It's not
People
a
who see
spoiler,
it will
right.
get it instantly.
That's funny. I like what you did there. It's a heartbreaking story about a morbidly obese and extremely recluse man whose health is rapidly deteriorating as multiple characters pay him visits for various reasons over the course of the week that this movie takes place in. If I talk too much about this movie, I'll start crying. So Taylor, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so this was a massive highlight, obviously hotly anticipated as well. It's got a huge amount of buzz because of Brendan Fraser and this being touted as very much his return. And I mean, it's safe to say that this film is that across the board. It is very much centered on his performance, and he definitely rises to the occasion. This is a heartbreaking and kind of harrowing kind of story of a man's a week in a man's life that feels very much just like this downward spiral where everything's kind of caving in, everything's coming to a head, and he's searching for redemption, like many characters in Aronofsky films are in many ways. And yeah, it's just bolstered by just this achingly personal and transcendent performance from Fraser, where he's wrestling with so many demons, and it's all kind of coming to a mass in this short amount of time. Like he's incredible. Sadie Sink is incredible as well, matching right along with him. Hong Chow is incredible. Ty Simpkins, I believe, is the name of the performer who does the he's the kind of the missionary. He's kind of a curveball in the movie, but that's he works really well as well. This is it's a stripped down kind of Aronofsky film. It is based on a play by Samuel D. Hunter. So it's very much about performances. It's about dialogue. It's about characters blocking and characters being in a single location. And while I don't think Aronofsky does much that's particularly dynamic or inventive with the single location premise, it's very much just kind of I don't want to say a basic take on it, but it's just like it's very much straightforward in its presentation. It kind of, the background is always drenched in shadows, so it really is just like emphasizing characters like they're on a stage, and it's all about them playing off one another. They play off each other very well, and everything builds in a very satisfying way. And even though that way story isn't as satisfying as it is very personally affecting and sad, this definitely had most, if not all, people in the theater drop in tears, not a dry eye in the house, as they say, and for good reason, because this Fraser really will break your heart in this. It's very powerful filmmaking and acting. There's the collaboration that Aronofsky and Fraser have put on screen is, you know, it just feels so interwoven. They feel like they're just such on the same page, and they're just, you know, they're working with each other so well, and each feeding each other great ideas, where it feels very whole and complete, this work. Yeah, I guess my only critique was that I just wish it would have kind of, you know, done a bit more interesting with the single location premise. But yeah, Aronofsky's clearly wanting to just make a more stripped down and minimalist almost kind of feature. And I think he does a great job. And yeah, you're going to be looking at Fraser Best Actor noms, possibly wins. Let's be real. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, nothing new. I'm not gonna come out here with a fastball like to the dirt that's just like Brendan Fraser bad. He's absolutely
that would get clicks. People would be like, what is this
I'm
fool
like,
talking
you want
about?
everyone to watch this video? Yeah, Brendan Fraser's absolutely like singular, to the point where I think everyone is really, really excellent in the film. And just to piggyback on like what Taylor was saying, I actually think not only is it not like super dynamic with its take on a one location, I even think its story, and this is gonna sound really harsh maybe and reductive, which is, you know, not the point. I give this movie 4.5 stars. I think this movie's excellent. I don't think it's very inventive in terms of its storytelling or kind of world building really at all. I think it's very simplistic and something we've seen before. And I think that actually serves it to the benefit. I've seen some critics really, really kind of like talk down on it because of that, where it's just kind of like, oh, you're telling us, like, you're spoon feeding us a story we've heard before. But I think that's kind of the point, right? It's like they're not trying to like pull one over on you or do anything that's like absolutely astounding, like we've never seen before. They're trying to create and by they I mean Darren Aronofsky and co. Aronofsky's trying to make a stage for these actors to give the best performances they can give, and 100% the runtime, that's a success. Like, there's not a single scene where I'm like, oof, that person's not good. Like, everyone is great the whole time, to the point where like I remember specific body movements from people where it's just like when Hong Chow does that thing that's like seared into my memory, or when Brendan Fraser makes a turn, it's seared into my memory because it's so simple. I'm not worried that like the story's going to take a wild Aronofsky turn, which he's like very famous for doing. It's like, oh my God, is the story really just going to go here now? Or like, that's part of the world that we're living in? Like, really? Like, I think that's one of the problems I have with Mother, right? Where it's just like, that's part of, okay. Like, we're dealing with all of that in this movie. Great. Awesome. That's not the thing with The Whale. I'm not like, there's never a moment where I'm like, oh my God, is he just gonna like suddenly do body horror for like 30 seconds like he does in Black Swan or anything like that. He's not tackling any of these huge inventive ideas. He's just giving us a chamber piece and letting everyone cook, and everyone cooks. It's fantastic. And so like that's the highest compliment you can give it, is like, hey, Aronofsky, you pulled off the exact thing you wanted to pull off. And maybe that's a little simplistic for some people, and they can just be like, yeah, Fraser's great, but, and I'm like, well, that's the point, is you're supposed to go in and be like, Hong Chow, you're awesome. Sadie Sink, you're incredible. Brendan Fraser, like, I'm so glad that you're back and in the best performance of your career. So that's where I come down on it. Loved it.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I mean, I don't have a whole lot new to add to what you guys have said. I think you hit the nail on the head with all of your comments. Really, I was just so invested. Again, like I said, I'm really into movies that are character studies and that really focus on character development, or maybe not character development, right? And so I think like really getting to know these characters and also trying to figure out the motives of these characters, like it's so interesting, the moral ambiguity that exists in this story. I think that you're never really sure, especially with Fraser's character, like how virtuous are you really? And I think that is or maybe like, how virtuous are you really, and how virtuous do you think you are? You know, there's so many questions about these characters, and as you watch this movie, you get to ask yourself these questions and kind of piece together what is happening in the story to come to your own conclusions. And I appreciate that, and really like that. I also, I guess, speaking on the one location thing, it's so interesting how this is a one location film, but I think how it was filmed, for me at least, made it feel big. I don't think I ever felt like claustrophobic in this setting. It was certainly, and I don't know if it was just the lenses that they used or whatever, but I remember some shots being like, wow, that's a really big shot in this apartment. Like, you're getting three characters on opposite ends of the rooms into this one shot. And so I think that it was filmed in a way that made it feel big enough to be a stage, and not so so it didn't have the anxiety of being closed off or claustrophobic, which makes sense because that's not how the character felt. He felt very comfortable in the space that he's in. And so I think this movie makes, at least for me, made me feel comfortable in what should be a very tiny space, but didn't feel like it. So there's a lot that's going on there. I cried. Yeah, that happened. I just let it go, and especially with the fact that like you guys said, the performances here are fantastic, but no, like, thinking in the movie, like, this is Brendan Fraser, right? When I say Brendan Fraser, people say George of the Jungle or Tarzan, right? Like, late 90s Mummy, right? Like, we know the entertainment that Brendan Fraser has delighted us with before, and to see him in this kind of role. And admittedly, I haven't really kept up with his career all that much since those blockbusters. But to see him now in this role, just really giving it his all and really nailing it as well. There are some moments in the movie that I'm just like, man, that was a very, very well executed moment for Fraser. But yeah, and again, Sadie Sink, she has some very audacious moments with her character, and those are standout moments as well. Hong Chow, also, her character, like, the acting is so good. I would actually love to see the stage play of this movie. Like, I think Todd, was it you I was talking with? I can't remember. I would love to see the stage play. I just think that it's such a great platform for awesome performances and an interesting character study. So
yeah,
I will.
I will add just to that. I think there's a lot of discussion going on around this movie regarding just kind of like with like fat phobia, and about a character who's 600 pounds, and about how we talk about that and how it's depicted on screen. And while that's like a necessary conversation, I also think in a lot of the channels I've seen it play out in, it's been very shallow. And I think there's way more complex conversations that can happen about the moral ambiguity of not just Brendan Fraser's character, but of Sadie Sink's character. I don't think Hong Chau's character is morally ambiguous, but like, I do think she's kind of the skeleton key to the movie, where it's like she might actually be like the most like morally humane character in the movie. But there's just way deeper conversations that can happen about like the values that we put on people, and what we consider a good person and a bad person, that are at play in this movie, that go way deeper than just like the surface level, like, wow, should we make a movie about someone who's 600 pounds, and how do we talk about that? And I also like to point out, it's like secretly an LGBT film that is really awesome to see that representation play out, and it not just be like, hey, there's a gay movie out, like, everyone, like, it's an LGBT movie and it has to be marketed that way, and that's all it's going to be pigeonholed as. This is like, that's like the 18th thing you talk about when you talk about this movie. And I'm just like happy that we get to that point where we're just kind of like, by the way, excellent entry into like the LGBT canon of yeah. So
Absolutely.
I'll just shout that.
Good points to make. I agree with all that for sure. So what a discussion. I guess this officially brings TIFF to a close. I appreciate you guys hopping on and having this conversation and talking about our favorites. And we will continue film festival coverage with one more stop this year at home base. Vancouver Film Festival starts September 29th, goes to October 9th. A lot of films that played at TIFF are going to be playing at VIFF. So, you know, if you're in Vancouver and there are some TIFF things that you wanted to see, they will check VIFF and see if it's playing there. Many of the films we talked about will be there. And yeah, check out that that lineup at viff.org. Yeah, this brings TIFF to a close, and we'll go ahead and sign off. Todd, where can people find you online and on social media?
You can find me at Todd_complex. You can find all of my writing for ForReel at ForReel.com. Thomas will obviously link it. And that's me. This has been Men Talking.
There's a topic of discussion. Taylor, where can people find you online?
Yeah, at Best Reel, 2 T's REAL, and that all my writing at thisisforreal.com. Hold on, I got my
I was about to say, I love that you guys have your water bottles. Yeah, great stuff.
I don't know if anyone's gonna pick up a QR code from there, but you can get straight to my writing with that. Yeah, some more reviews coming, and also lots coming with VIFF, because that's, you know, that's where we live, so that's where we're gonna hit it hard. Yeah,
absolutely. And of course, you can find me on social media at beingtsj, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, all those places. And our content for TIFF will be at thisisforreal.com. Of course, I'll put links there. Social media links will also be in the description. And as Todd said, this has been Men Talking. We're gonna go ahead and shut up about TIFF now, okay? Guys, this was such a very awesome experience. I'm glad I got to do this with you guys. Thanks for being there and for having your coverage online, and we'll do this again for VIFF. So for everyone out there watching, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep it for real.